is, what is today's topic? Today's topic is, oh my gosh, I just forgot. But I'll remember in a minute. In the meantime, let's get settled in and present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And as just imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, any stress, any fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, energizing every molecule, every electron, lighting up every cell with vital life energy and brilliant, bright light. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining fatigue, any stress, any tension. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms. Feel how delicious that sensation is and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now. Good morning, Suzanne. So, good morning, Tammy. Welcome, welcome, you guys, and everybody else who's joining us. And the topic I've remembered for today is belonging, because human beings are social animals, and we have this desire to, or this need to feel a sense of belonging. And um, and I want to talk about what this belonging piece actually is, and what we're willing to do for to gain a sense of belonging. So I remember a conversation that I had with a family member that I adore some time ago, and they were talking about self-esteem. There were some serious issues around self-esteem and feeling accepted and feeling okay in the world. And they said, takes it only takes one person in the world to get you, to see you, in order to feel like you belong, like it's okay to be here. And I want to talk about belonging from that aspect all the way to the other aspect. And Suzanne says, good one for me since I'm German. So that's kind of the other extreme, is how we can find ourselves sacrificing our autonomy in order to belong. So good afternoon, Hope. Welcome, welcome. It's great to have you here. So um, I think that peer pressure is kind of the dark side of belonging. And we can see that in social factions as well. And we see it really rife now in our country with the factionalism in the US uh, politically. That there are groups that really have a very primal kind of identification with each other, and and in this quest to belong, we find ourselves often acting out behaviors that we would never ever act out individually. And so this is kind of where there's a mob mentality, where there's a crowd mentality, that um, there's an energy of the group that we can get swept up in. And as our desire to belong, we just get swept away with the momentum of the group. And I find this dynamic really, really fascinating. I It's always been very interesting to me to be looking at the dynamics of a cult. You know, what defines a cult? I think we've talked about this before, but uh, where there's this group think or this group ethos that uh, supersedes and overrides and overwhelms our sometimes our individual morality even, where we can, through the momentum of a group as part of belonging, we can be encouraged to be doing things that we would never ever do. So for instance, like in mobs where all of a sudden people start rioting, there's this momentum and energy of its own. Hi, Robert. So good to have you here. And good morning, Rosalind. Great to have you. Does it start around second grade, the need to belong in a group? What if you are homeschooled? Do those kids have a stronger sense of self? I can't say because I have not kids, but just what I've observed. Interesting. I think that belonging starts way before second grade. I think it can, I mean, I have vague memories of kindergarten even, where there was a need to belong for me, you know, or a desire to belong. And it's interesting that you say, do homeschool kids have a stronger sense of self? You know, so that makes me think of religion, because I know that a lot of this, you know, there are different groups of people that do homeschooling, but a lot of people who do homeschooling are religious people. And that makes me think about belonging within a church, belonging within a religion, belonging within certain doctrines. You know, so we can experience belonging on all different levels. We can experience belonging within a social circle or within a cultural kind of circle, like a religious circle, or a well, even for instance, based on eating habits, for example, like vegetarians or vegans or paleo, or, you know, people will gravitate to people that have some commonality, with whom they have some commonality. So it can be based on political perspectives, religious perspectives, behavioral perspectives, familial perspectives. You know, we talk about family clans, right? And there's certain cultural elements to that kind of grouping. And so what defines our sense of belonging? Because I know that a lot of us also feel like outsiders. And certainly that was an experience that I had very much through most of my life, is really feeling like I didn't belong. Good morning, Andrea. Welcome. So good to have you joining us. Uh, we're talking about belonging and the dynamics of it, and what we're willing to do in order to belong, or how we're willing to be in order to belong. And so I'm thinking of groups behaving in certain ways. You know, like think about teenagers, right? The cool kids. If you get to hang out with the cool kids, maybe they're doing stuff that you wouldn't do normally, you know, but you're doing those things because you want to be part of the group, you want to belong. So I remember growing up, you know, I was around, I had friends that would get high, and I wasn't really into getting high. And for a while, it was, I I didn't find, I didn't really know how to say no, I'm not into that, and still be able to be part of the group, you know. So we learn our different ways of being But, you know, like kids will get high to be cool. Kids will drink to be cool. Kids will have sex to be cool, or, you know, or all kinds of behaviors. And it's not restricted to kids, right? Because as adults, good morning, Robin. So good to have you here. So we do things as a result of peer pressure, right? Because we don't want to look uncool. We don't want to be outcast. So maybe we don't speak our mind. Maybe we go along with uh, certain policies. Maybe we go along with certain um, certain ways of expressing ourselves because we want to belong. So, or we don't want to rock the boat, right? We don't want to be an outsider. We don't want to be spotlighted. So when we talk about belonging in the context of a group, one of the things that we've spoken about a lot together is sovereignty and maintaining our own sovereignty. And that that means not just going with the tide because it's easy. Um, so Suzanne says, I tried to belong so badly, be American, especially with my sisters-in-law, that I lost myself for a while. Now I'm working on finding myself again, multicultural. So I totally hear what you're saying, Suzanne. So being German, trying to blend in, being American, rather than really letting your differences shine, you know. So our differences are a big part of what make us who we are, you know, make us unique and special. uh, Rosalind says we have free will to choose which groups we share and give our energy to. Well, so this is true. We do have free will. The thing that I'm so curious about is, and have listened to different documentaries on, and done reading around. Ouch. Uh, is um, is cults, and also how people, for instance, become radicalized, how people become brainwashed. And so we like to believe that we have free will, and we are also influenced by the things that we experience culturally, advertising. We can think about how people were influenced during the elections through social media. We can recognize that we're influenced by what we see on the news and absorb as truth, and therefore our ideas are shaped, and we're encouraged to sort of toe the line of the popular belief. And so I think it's all really very interesting how this herd mentality, we keep hearing lately about herd immunity, but the thing is that there is a large herd mentality. There are many things that we collectively believe, and that we tend collectively to dismiss if it's at odds with that collective trend. And so for instance, you know, we look at the what happened in Germany with the Nazis, and how they were able to get so much social buy-in from people that were moral people, believed themselves to be moral people. How can that happen? And we see people who have very strong political beliefs becoming engaged. Like, look at what happened with the Capitol. Here are people, if we're giving people the greatest benefit of the doubt, these are people who have strong convictions about patriotism and the value of freedom. And what happened is, as a mob, when they collectively got together, look what happened. There was death and destruction. And so with I'm giving people the highest benefit of the doubt that they had intentions of saving the government, perhaps. Even though I don't particularly I don't ascribe to that vantage point, but look at what happens when people have this sense of belonging. So, we belong to our political parties. We belong, and if we think about that word from the other side of belongings, possessions, then when we belong to a political party, or we belong to a certain faction, then we're implying some sense of ownership of that faction of us, and that we are owned, we belong to the ownership of that organization. So Rosalind says, replying to Suzanne, acceptance from my family can be a struggle for sure. I see you for who you are, Suzanne. I love how you show up. I do too. I do too. And the same for all of you here who show up so authentically and with open heart. It's and vulnerably. It's just beautiful to be sharing with you. And I think part of this notion of belonging, especially in groups, is coming from a sense of insecurity, personal insecurity. And that goes to what you were saying, Suzanne, about how you were trying so hard to be an American. And there might have been a sense of somehow, on some level, being American is better. And I don't know that that is in any way true. Being like, I think that I'm wondering what it is to be an American. What is it to be German, a German? What is it to be an American? Because if you look at this country right now, I see that there are so many factions within our country. So I'm not certain of what it means to be an American. I mean, there are certain traits, perhaps, that we have culturally, generally, as a people. But I'm not really so privy to that, and I don't know that. I think we get to look at how we identify and where we experience our place of belonging. And as I grew up, I know that I really felt very isolated, and and even like looking at being here on Earth as a human being, I felt very and often still do feel very at odds with and confused by human beings, and feel like, wow, I don't really know what I'm doing here exactly, because this just doesn't make sense, what I see in the world and how people operate in the world. Suzanne says, I just wanted to be liked by my in-laws. I was fine with who I was being German. That's beautiful, Suzanne. And being liked by your in-laws, I hear you. Family is a challenge. I really felt like I didn't belong in my family. I was so different from my other family members. You know, I had different interests, different values, different sensibilities, and really didn't feel like I belonged. And um, sometimes sometimes I wonder what happens. Hello, Dennis. Bonjour. Welcome. Um, we have a multicultural connection here today. That's awesome. So I think it's important to be looking at how we identify, and where where our ultimate security comes from, because I think this notion of belonging has at its root a sense of safety, a sense of I don't know a better word actually than safety. That, to feel like you're belonging, it's like you're part of a group. Ideally, it means that people have your back, that you can kind of know who you are in the context of things. It creates context to be part of um, of a group. So Dennis says, Gutenberg Morgan. I'm thinking that means good morning, or Guten. I don't know German, so maybe Suzanne, you know what that means. Anyway, it's great to be looking at where we're experiencing belonging, because ultimately, if we can experience a sense of belonging within ourselves, it all resides within ourselves anyway. But if we can, autocorrect. Okay, so gotcha, Dennis. um, if we can experience a sense of belonging within ourselves, like a sense of safety and presence and self-acceptance and um, sovereignty, then we don't need to define ourselves by our affiliations. And that gives us greater freedom to be thinking independently, and ideally not get so caught up with groupthink that we are moved into actions and beliefs that we would not cultivate on our own. Like there's group courage where people might be robbing and looting in a riot, where the individuals would never ever do that kind of thing on their own. Robert says, "Oh, family can be a struggle. No joke. With all the labels they put on you. In my family, I was labeled as the black sheep. I am Romanian, and I fitted perfectly in the UK, but you can't please everyone. So whoever likes me the way I am. I don't struggle to belong anywhere." And Guten Morgen. That is good morning. I got you. Thank you. That's what I thought, but like I said, I don't know German. Anyway, I think you're right, Robert. I was a black sheep too, and I wouldn't be surprised if a very high proportion of the population of folks that are here through the Enlightened World Network were also black sheep, because of differing ideas than the cultural norm. Um, I it is important to be alert and conscious of the affiliations that we hold, and what beliefs or what activities or what road we're willing to follow, go, or what road we're willing to go down to maintain that affiliation. And again, I want to come back to this notion of sovereignty and personal responsibility and accountability, because with the power of ideas and the flow of momentum, it's easy to get swept into a path that would not be our own, and where we kind of subvert our free will, or we let go of our free will because we're not being conscious and deliberate, so that we don't allow the kind of thing that that has people pitted against people. You know, we get to look at this. We're in a very factionalized time in the US, and we get to really be conscientious about how we express our beliefs. And I've seen so many people just become polarized in particularly the political realm, to where a conversation isn't even possible anymore. And this is not a place that we want to go. And a big part of it is due to this need for belonging. So Robert says, all black sheep end up shining their bright light. Well, certainly I hope that a bunch of them do, right? I know that there are some black sheep who go down a dark road, and hopefully more of us are shining a bright light. And Suzanne says, I'm the opposite of group mentality. I run from it. I it leaves me cold too, frankly. So I am always circumspect around that. Now, I've participated in a whole bunch of personal growth type trainings, and there's a group mentality in those kinds of environments as well. And I there's a huge energy in that kind of environment, and we get to be circumspect about that as well, you know, to engage. And there's a lot of social pressure to engage in those situations, and to be holding a certain perspective. And we get to find a balance. She is nipping my head, and it's just really annoying and painful. This is Maggie, for any of you who haven't met her before, and she's being particularly obnoxious this morning. Anyway, I think that these group environments, rallies, trainings, there is a group mentality, and there is pressure to conform. There is social pressure to conform. And in some instances, it can be beneficial, because perhaps the vantage point, the perspective is a positive perspective that is life altering in a good way. So there's a discernment. I took a hypnosis training years ago. I took multiple hypnosis trainings, but there was one teacher I had where she was demonstrating hypnosis to me, on me, and I was listening and observing. And at one point, you know, I wasn't hypnotized, and she reprimanded me, and, you know, spoke very firmly to me, like, you know, essentially saying, are you going to get hypnotized or not? And at that moment, I got to choose. I chose whether I was going to allow that or not. And really, the truth is about hypnosis is it's always you allowing. It's not really somebody exercising their control over you. It's some part of you that is saying, okay. But in any case, in these group situations, you get to choose whether this is a perspective that is a valuable perspective to take on, and not to just do it because there's social pressure to do it. So Rosalind says, when you discover self and your own identity, one question you can ask yourself is what brings you joy, or the opposite of what makes you cry, or the opposite of that, what makes you cry. Maybe we can use this exercise to understand the beginning point for ourselves. I love your perspective, Rosalind. You always bring an extra dimension into the conversation. And I think that what you're talking about here is about connecting to your heart of hearts. And that is the thing, that is the light that makes us unique. And what brings you joy and what brings me joy may be very different things. But those are the things that are our heart's song. And that's something to nurture. So one of the antidotes to the need to belong is a deeper sense of self and self-connection and alignment. And so the questions that you're posing, Rosalind, are really powerful way for us to get in touch with that. And Robert says, hypnosis is extremely powerful. I used to practice self-hypnosis. So we could consider that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And there's a lot to say that we're all always hypnotized. And it's just a matter of what we're hypnotized to, you know, like what are the beliefs that we're believing? What are the identities that we're holding? What are the, how are we vibrating? All of that is a function of what goes on in heart, mind, and spirit. And so there is a lot to be said about maybe we're all always hypnotized. We're hypnotized to believe that we're human beings, you know, that we are flesh and blood, or that time exists, or that any of the other beliefs that we have exist. You know, people, there's a lot to be said about television being a vehicle of hypnosis. And okay, Maggie, that's enough. Time out, time out, time out, time out. She's torturing me today. Time out, buddy. Good girl. Good girl. I love what she does with her little feet. Okay, good girl. All right, so she's calmed down a little bit. Anyway, so one of the things that we can look at is that belonging and the group energy, we can consider that a form of hypnosis or mind control or brainwashing. Is what we choose to accept in order to belong can be very insidious. And the path down a road to radicalism or I used the word before and now it's escaping me, but that we can follow this path step by step down a road of of belonging and straying from our own compass. It can happen pretty easily. Oh, when I talked about people being radicalized, you know, that it starts out with benevolence and then moves into a darker and darker place. And our ability to be self-reflective is essential and um, fundamental to maintaining our sovereignty as responsible individuals. So I guess this story about belonging that we're engaging in today is really about taking personal responsibility, maintaining a perspective, being circumspect in the things that we believe and the groups that we associate with, and that's even within family, is like needing, and this is a fundamental need of children, right, is needing the acceptance of their parents, or you know, needing love, and when we have extended families with in-laws, etc., all of that, there's the desire to be accepted and to be embraced, for sure. And we get to rally our individual awareness, so to shift that need to a preference. Like, I would prefer it if they loved me, I would prefer it if we got along, and it's no longer a need. If we can get to that place, there's so much greater freedom in it. So with that, I am going to wrap up this morning. I'm Mira Rubin, here with you on Enlightened World Network. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page at 9 a.m. Eastern. And it is such a joy for me to spend this time with you. I'm so grateful to you for your engagement and your authenticity. And Robin says, I don't know if I said hi to you yet, Robin. So if I didn't, I'm saying hi. And we make a choice, considering it is to be for our highest good. The way we respond and apply the consequences of our decisions is for good or a lesson to grow from and go forward. Exactly, Robin. So life is learning, right? And with that, I invite you to check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network. And I look forward to seeing you again here really, really soon. And I have a sense of belonging here with you in this community, partly because I am holding the belief that each of us is here for our highest good and for our own growth and for the betterment of the planet. So with that, lots and lots of love to you.